welcome out everybody to ExCog Radio, episode number 5. Today we're gonna be talking about Stormblood, the shitstorm that was, and our Shadowbringer predictions, the good stuff that's actually coming up in this game, compared to what the fuck we've been dealing with the last 2 years. I'm, of course, as your main host, as always, Mr. Angel Lux, and again, our main co-host on this podcast, Mr. Variel Ambergold, most cursed man on the Citadel. What's up, my dude?
Yes, I'm here. I could have eaten lunch. Unfortunately, I forgot the podcast was on right now. The curse continues.
The curse of time management and Discord notifications not working. And joining us today is the commander of Cute, Miss Ryu. Hello, Ryu.
Hello! I am the commander of Cute here at Citadel. I have joined one of these podcasts, and I've never done a podcast before, so I hope I do well. I am scared. Help me.
You'll do fine. No worries. We're just gonna banter and talk. That's just what podcast is anyway. And today we're gonna be recording at Mr. Aleutia Stormdancer's house. Sorry, dude, I butchered your name.
It's okay. I'm Aleutia Stormdancer. I am from Phoenix. I am just an average player, but I know a shit ton about this game, and I actually like knowing a lot about games. Welcome to my house!
Feel free to give us the grand tour. This is a really freaking nice location, as I mentioned before. So sad it's nighttime now that we can't see it as well, but still. Like, you're basically on the freaking shoreline in the mists. How many people would you kill for a plot like this?
I think a lot of people. I've actually gotten several times that people keep bugging me and PMing me about, is your house for sale? I want to buy your house. And I'm like, no, it's not for sale. Please stop asking me this. I bought this house back in 3.3 when they did the first Ward expansion. And it was just an average place, kinda. Then Shirogane came out, and I had two options. I could either join the entire housing rush to go to Shirogane, or I could just bring Shirogane to the mist. And that's actually what I ended up doing with the whole house exterior and the garden.
Yeah, it does have that little weeby feeling, so to say. So, give us the grand tour. Wow, cool.
So it's...
You actually have like... Oh.
So I've got garden plots
like
to essentially be self-sufficient and plant things. I've got a little hot spring to chill out in and sit in. So yeah, that's really cool. The whole garden is essentially themed with the house. On the opposite side there's a little tea corner complete with glowing kettle, of course.
Oh yeah, you need to get that kettle.
Absolutely. You can't have a house without a glowing Nexus kettle.
Said to be able
Nope.
to boil a good cup of tea in 10 seconds flat.
Absolutely.
That's actually quite impressive, I would say.
Never forget that this is technically a Pugilist Storm.
Technically, what? Sorry?
Pugilists can have that as a weapon. They can have
Not that
glowing
one.
Oh, yeah.
kettle as a weapon.
The pugilist weapon is a different kettle, but yeah, you can get a set of kettles as
Actually, it's pretty much the same model. And
I almost used them too.
Yeah, it's I had them. It's actually pretty nice to look at. It's just goofy.
Yeah.
Yeah, Monk got some really goofy weapons in this game overall. Which is funny, but, you know, who plays Monk, XD? So you have this whole, like, Eastern aesthetic going on the outside. How is it looking on the inside?
What was that
come take
about
a look.
Monk?
What was that? But
Nothing. You mean Pugilist, the thing I have at level 15 still. For our inner release cross-class.
That's not how it's pronounced.
I'm dyslexic.
I don't care.
Actually, my Pugilist is level 8, so don't feel bad.
See, I got the comfy pirate monk.
Is that the ExCog gloves?
Yeah.
No. Oh, those.
Oh, yes.
I mean, it does give you claws.
You have like the Sephiroth one.
These are the Fists of the Sephiroth, which actually I should switch these because I got the Pyros Knuckles now.
Yeah, that's actually look quite good.
Reapply the...
This house though, holy crap, my
There we
dude.
go. Now I have the proper fists.
I don't even have a monk gear set anymore. I have too many glam sets, I need to get rid of other stuff.
This is why I
Yeah,
only
welcome
actually
to my
play
house,
3 classes.
It's
Wow.
basically
Wow.
just a quiet place to relax, do my crafts, and have all my services at hand.
Yeah, like everyone has this little nice corner with all the things they need. This one is really impressive, though. Never thought about doing that with the banners.
That banner,
That's pretty
that
clever.
red banner right there, looks awesome.
That's the PvP, isn't that? That's one of the PvP banners, isn't it?
Correct. That's the Raven banners from Rival Wings.
Oh,
see.
Right next to it is the Falcon banner from Rival Wings.
The middle banner is the mole banner that you get from
Correct.
the main story quest, and the one on the right is the storm banner. But I don't recognize the one between those two.
It was
That's the Rising event
exactly
banner, right?
from the year before. Not last year,
Yeah,
but the year
2 years
before.
ago.
2 years ago.
ah.
I have a couple of those in my house. They look pretty good, but can you get those off the Mog Station now? You should, right?
I'm not sure actually. It's I bought 4 or 5 when the event was on, and I just put them in my storeroom to use as needed.
Yeah, same. That's usually what you should do with event stuff. Like, pick up a couple and just store them for later.
That's pretty much what I do.
This here is my little sitting corner.
It's freaking awesome.
I like
You have a good, nice
I like the
house,
way
I
that
would
you
say.
set
That's
it up
holy
with
shit.
the table between the two L-shaped sofas.
Yeah.
That's really nice. Huh. Cool. You want to show us the upstairs and
Yes,
downstairs real
absolutely.
quick?
Let's go upstairs then, which
Yeah.
is essentially my sort of quote-unquote private rooms. I still have a little bit of work left to do, so there are a few small empty spots like this counter here. I'm just hoping that during Shadowbringers I'll just get an idea or a cool furnishing or something to put in there.
Well, we're probably gonna get some new NPCs you can put there.
Probably,
hopefully,
yes.
at least. Yeah.
This is my show-off table with the airship models and some, well, impressive other models. Like I've got a Nidhogg, I've got a Proto Ultima, I've got like an elegant battle table where I just put up what would happen if this monster would fight this monster, and I sometimes switch them out. Right now I've got Queen Skatach on there, I've got Hollow Diabolos and Sophia on there. But sometimes,
That's pretty cool.
Yeah, what would
sometimes
happen
I
if
switch
those
them out.
three fought each other?
Yeah.
My money's on Diablos.
My money's on Sophia.
My,
Yeah.
money, my money's on Diablos.
The only thing I would say about the airships over here, it's cool as fuck, but it's a bit dark, at least on my screen. Maybe some light source here.
You
in
could
the middle
use,
of the
Yeah,
table
it's,
boosts it
it's
up.
on the cards. This is all little things that I'm still working on. I do have the light fairly low in the house because if I turn the light up too much, it gets way too bright.
Yeah, I think mine is at 2 or something.
this
Sorry,
is
Variel, I'll cut
lighting
you off.
level.
I just linked something in the chat. You can probably use those to light up the table specifically.
Yes. I will look into them, I promise. Behind this wall and door is essentially my quote-unquote private room, which is just a bedroom-bathroom combination. I apologize for the low lighting. Again, this is something I still have to fix.
Yeah, but it's cozy, comfy.
You've got a dead
And
body in
that's
your
a
bath.
dead.
Oh my god.
I think we need to call the authorities. Wait, there is none.
I am the authorities.
Call the
That's
Crystal
a
Breaks.
very
Oh wait,
nice
they disbanded.
bed. Wow.
Quick, someone call the Yellow Jacket. Yeah, that is the Glade poster bed.
Canopy bed.
That's it, canopy bed.
I tried that out for a while, but it didn't gel well with my setup. But it's a nice bed.
Downstairs, well, welcome to my mini gold saucer.
Ooh.
Ooh.
You're actually one of the few people who have these machines.
I bought them.
I have not seen.
I
Yeah?
bought them when the original event for them was on. They were really dirt cheap then, so I just couldn't resist it. And I had a different basement setup back then, and I thought it would be so cool if I could just have a mini gold saucer in my house, and that's what this place ended up being. This is actually a legal place to play your triple triad matches, complete with
Yeah.
triple triad table right here.
And meanwhile, my triple triad mat is stashed under my bed, so you can just play triple triad in the house.
I got a triple triad table in my lounge. You're lazy, Angel.
I know. But most people don't want to play Triple Triad against me because I just wrecked them.
To be honest, Triple Triad is quite poorly balanced for human players.
Until you have 60 cards, it's actually no fair to play against people who do. Once you're past that 60 card limit and you feel more comfortable with how the game plays and everything, it actually becomes better.
The real issue that I have is that it's way too easy for games to end in a draw if both players know what they're doing.
Yes.
My biggest question is, when are we ever gonna get like an up, when can we use 4-star cards instead of just 3-star cards?
Yeah, like the NPCs are so fond of doing, of just throwing a deck in your face with 3 5-star cards that you are like, oh my god, how the hell can I win against this? Even drawing is an effort.
Well, I mean, the problem with like adding 4-star cards is that it's not really going to solve any of the problems with Triple Triad. In fact, it would probably make them make the whole thing of the game being grinding to a halt worse. What I prefer them to do is if you could have the choice between 1 5-star card or 2 4-star cards.
The one thing I've always noticed about the Crystal Tower, by the way, is the little mini Dalamud that follows around it.
Yeah.
It's cool. Like, something like maybe a point system. Like, you can have 20 points in a deck and you can use those 20 whatever. You can have maybe 3 5-star cards and a couple of 1s.
Yeah.
Just so it adds up to 20.
Oh well, it's all things that would have been nice to have.
Yeah. Again, Square Enix, hire me, XD.
See, Angel's completely incapable of actually enjoying this game.
Yeah. Yes, I've played it for almost 12k hours now.
I'm actually past that, and I'm still actually enjoying the game. It's just that some of the content decisions are beginning to grate on me more and more.
Agreed. So, awesome house, I would say. I'm gonna kick the iCam on, if I can.
Actually, there's one thing that I've expected all of you to notice, and none of you have. You guys haven't even seen my poster wall.
I noticed it.
Yeah, I noticed it. That was like the first thing I noticed, and it's really cool.
I just didn't comment on it because you were in the middle of doing your tour. It's quite nice that you've got a lot of the event posters. Like,
not all of them,
had
though.
to trade
like that little one.
This one kind of here at the top here. I had to trade one of the stuffed dogs from one of the old Heavenstone events for one of those posters from someone that managed to have it.
I had 3 at one point. I gave one away and I lost one in house transfers. I only have 1 left now. But it is like the best poster in the game.
Yeah, I think they're all great, and it's become more or less a tradition for me. Anytime they bring out a new poster for an event or anything, or even as a reward for completing content, like the Dome and Enclave poster right here, I just put it up.
But you are missing 1 or 2 winter posters, I believe.
Might be because I only started playing in... I'm not sure actually, because I started playing in 2.5, and I've been pretty consistent about obtaining and putting them up.
I'm pretty sure the one with the Mikota up here, there's one more, like from the Christmas event, that I didn't like at all. It's in my storeroom somewhere, I think, but it was meh as hell to me. Anyway. Well, again, awesome house. So let's kick it over to the news section. There was a Famitsu art interview a couple of days ago, and I think Variel, you're gonna host up that discussion?
Yeah, I can if you'd like.
Yeah, go for it, because I have not had the time to read it. I'm so bad at this.
I got my Twitch is just freaked out. Okay, and let me just bring it up again. Where is it? Sorry, I've got like 25 tabs open across 4 different windows. Okay, here we go. I got it.
Right.
Shut Twitch.
So, Famitsu Magazine, that's a Japanese gaming magazine, if I understand it correctly.
Yes.
And they seem to have a pretty well-working relationship with Square Enix and Yoshi P, because
Famitsu
that's basically where all the big stuff happens.
Famitsu specifically, because Famitsu is where Yoshi P hosts his... Yoshi P basically writes a column in Famitsu. I can't remember the name. I can't remember the name of it again. I've read the translations of it quite a few times. It's actually fairly interesting. But there was the Famitsu magazine was like this big 18-page article spread, but the majority of it is not really particularly relevant to our topic of conversation. There was a lot of FF events and prep articles for people who aren't currently playing FF that would be getting into for Shadowbringers. But there was an interview with Yoshi P that had quite a few things in it. Here we go. So let me see. First question. Tell us about the concept, game experience, and direction that you aim for with Shadowbringers. And Yoshi P's response was, the previous 2 expansions, Heavensward and Stormblood, did have a purpose to expand on the game experience, but it's also a huge goal and purpose to get over what 1.0 left behind and move closer and shape what a typical Final Fantasy title should be. Now that all that's out of the way, with Shadowbringers, we decided it's about time to finish the story that started in 1.0. On top of that, we also wanted to flip over a lot of aspects through the whole game experience. By the way,
basically the Yoshi P Tanaka fanfest here, fuckfest here. We're gonna get onto that in the main topic later on.
Could you please stop trying to curse Tanaka for like 5 seconds?
Dude, Tanaka did a great job on 11. He fucked up 1.0. I'm more upset with Yoshi P, honestly.
Alright. Also, this is a translation. Obviously, the original article is in Japanese, so some stuff may be lost in translation. The interview asks what Yoshida means by flip over. And the thing he starts with, by adding the trust system, where you can fight alongside NPCs in this MMORPG, you'll be able to clear the MSQ and the content involved in it as a solo player. This by itself flips the tables by making an MMO soloable, in big question marks, by the way. Could you please hold your opinions until I've finished listening to Yoshi's replies? He goes, along with the main scenario, when people hear you'll be visiting a world with light, you might imagine something holy, or the right side. But it's the other way around, which is the story of bringing back darkness to the world. Just like how the expansion has traitors, rebels in it. Want to flip over a lot this time. Translator's note. The JP title literally translates to jet black villains, with traitors as the subtitle for the word villains. Japanese culture loves adding subtitles to subtitles, and it's written as traitors but read as villains, which makes it Shikoku no villains. Just an addendum to what Yoshida said by making that the MMO soloable. The trust system cannot be taken into the vast majority of content. The trust system can only be taken into MSQ dungeons, which prevents experiences like, for example, the Praetorium and Castro Meridianum, which to this day continue to screw over people currently going through the main story quest. Everyone knows the many times, the many things that they've done to try and make it, until eventually they just kind of threw up their hands, made the cutscenes unskippable, and crammed the main scenario roulette with the best possible rewards. The trust system does not make this MMO soloable. It makes the main scenario quest soloable, which is an important difference. And it's something which I personally think is actually a good idea, because this game has so much locked behind the main scenario quest. Pretty much everything is, to one extent or another. I remember when I was first playing through the ARR, I would have to wait 30, 40 minutes to do a dungeon that I needed for my main scenario quest, because I went through as a DPS, and as the game gets older and more dungeons get added to it and more dungeons become requirements for the main story quest, the queues will only get worse and worse.
Yeah, and as you said, they forced the cutscenes upon us in Praetorium and stuff like that now. And that's after basically 1 weekly or 2 weekly threads on the official forums and Reddit bitching and complaining about it for years, because everyone had that experience of, oh, I want to experience the cutscenes. Where's the party? Where is everyone? Hello? Why are you 2 bosses ahead?
Yeah, you basically had a choice between watching the cutscenes or doing the dungeon.
Yeah, and as you said too, making it soloable through the MSQ is a good thing. There's a lot of people that play this game as a solo experience, and just looking at the PF around now, you see the Royal Menagerie normal and Tsukuyomi normal up there all the time because those queues take forever because no one is queuing for that stuff. But you need it for the MSQ. Which is sad, but that's also one of the things that Eureka did this expansion. They diverted a lot of the player base away from the roulettes, which makes it a lot harder for some people to actually finish the
They've also shown and said that the trust system is not going to be better than playing with other players. For example, they said that they expect a trust system run to last about half an hour or so. And that is a really awful time for a human party. Like a decent dungeon run for certain dungeons, you can get through them in 15 minutes, 20 minutes.
Also depending on how new/old the dungeon is with the gear we currently have, but...
Yeah, like 30...
Sorry, yeah, 15, 20 minutes, yeah.
30 minutes is what I expect when I have to drag a bunch of newbies or chumps through a dungeon that they don't know, or that they refuse to do properly. Yeah.
Or someone that joins the level 69 dungeon with Shire gear.
Yeah, it's like...
Yeah, as a tank that pulls wall to wall.
Yeah, that just...
No.
It just goes. So do either two of our guests have any points to make on what I've already covered, or should I continue?
I'm not sure. I'm not a really big fan of this trust system. I've seen similar systems in Guild Wars 1, where you had your own little cluster of NPCs that you could use to get through missions. And I've seen how it effectively destroys a lot of content for grouping up, where to the point where you are compelled to use this system because nobody else will help you with it because the system is there to be helped.
I don't think that's going to happen with the trust system for a couple important reasons. One, roulettes are really important in this game for getting your tomestones and getting your XP, and you cannot go into a roulette with a trust party. You have to play a roulette with other human players. Two, the way it stands right now, going in with a trust party is inferior to going in with humans. Like, as I just said, it could take you up to twice as long to finish a dungeon with the trust system. And thirdly, the trust system is specifically only for main story quest dungeons. You can't take your trust system into the 8-man raids, you can't take them into the 24-man raids, and you can't take them into the optional dungeons. You also can't take them into the trials.
There's one thing you forgot to mention, which is, I think, something we should mention. If you use trusts to complete a duty, not only will you take longer, you will also get less out of it, because they have already said this on the live letter that using trusts will reduce the amount of loot you receive.
Yeah, yes. That's actually a good point. Also, on top of that, you're never going to get a newbie bonus if you use the trust system. Well, you might... I don't know if you'll get your own, but you're never going to... But obviously, if you never run with other people, you're never going to run with other people who are new to the dungeon. And that newbie bonus can be really nice, like an extra 100 poetics or 100 mendacity. Yeah. So, like I said, the way it currently stands is the trust system is a inferior option to running with other people, and that's why I'm pretty sure that that it's not going to do what Aleutia just said happened in Guild Wars, because the first time I go into a dungeon, I might not mind the slow time it takes for a trust system. In fact, I may actually personally always do my first run in a dungeon with the trust system, because I don't need to worry about people who are absolutely garbage at playing their role. And also, there's going to be character interaction between the NPCs. Like, for example, it was shown in the previous live letter that Thancred and Urianger were talking to each other in the dungeon. But when I've done a dungeon, and I've done it 10 times, and I'm literally just trying to do it to farm glam, or I need to do it for another thing, if I've already done a dungeon 20 times, I want to get through that dungeon as quickly as I possibly can. I'm not going to sit around with my NPCs taking double the time when I could be pulling wall to wall and clearing in 15 minutes. Yeah, like for example, I actually, unironically, enjoy the Aurum Vale, because it is a dungeon that actually requires me to use more than 5 brain cells, and it has relatively interesting mechanics for that period of the game. But God, I've got Aurum Vale in the leveling roulette so many times, my brain just turns off when I get it now.
I still think Damsel Darkhold is worse than Aurum Vale, but that probably boils down to personal opinion. And
Aurum Vale is bad because it's a actually difficult dungeon. Like, you can easily overpull, there's poison everywhere, you quite often have to pay attention to visual tells on the bosses instead of paying attention to the casts. Zmail Darkhold sucks because it's ugly and tedious. Yeah. I call it Dismal Darkhold, even though I know that it's not pronounced dismal.
Ryu, you tried to get something in there. What were you trying to say?
I was gonna throw in a complaint, like, this is just for the regular players that actually want to go through with it, like normal. Like, some people I know are actually planning on going through MSQ with a good few friends, and are actually going to be doing the roulettes and the dungeons and all that without the trust system. But I was just going to ask, if the trust system's in place and there's going to be a lot of people using it, wouldn't that knock down the queue time for a lot of people, and therefore make DPS queue times worse than they usually are?
Probably,
I
but
doubt
we've
it,
already
personally.
seen that we already seen in Stormblood that it's becoming quite much worse with Eureka, because again, people diverting into that. Sorry, Variel.
I was just going to say, you may find that happens in the first month or so, when the trust system is brand new and also everyone's bum rushing through the Shadowbringers story. But what you'll find is that it will very rapidly normalize again, because, as we mentioned, roulettes are what keeps old content populated in this game. For example, you can get an extremely wide variety of dungeons in the leveling roulette. You can get pretty much every dungeon that's not, air quotes, level cap. So every dungeon that isn't a 50, 60, or 70 dungeon. So what you might find is that that may happen at the start, but then later on, when people start finishing those dungeons and it starts normalizing, people are going to start using their roulettes again. In fact, that may not even happen in the first place, because, pardon me, sorry, everyone still needs to do those leveling roulettes to level their new classes through Shadowbringers. And also on top of that, I'm pretty sure that you don't have to solo a trust party. So for example, let's say you have 2 friends that you're running with, so there's 3 of you. I'm pretty sure you can bring along 1 trust member to fill in that missing gap.
You can?
Yes. I'm not 100% certain on that, but I'm pretty sure that is the case. I mean, it would kind of... I mean, okay. Also, if you just think about it logically, it would make the trust system kind of crap if you had to go in solo. And as much as Angel likes to complain about every single thing that Square Enix do, they are usually very good at not doing the obviously terrible things.
Yes and no.
Dude, I just blame Tanaka for everything. Makes things easier.
Uh-oh, spaghetti code.
Mamma mia, that's just some really bad spaghetti code. Anyway, do you want me to continue on with the Famitsu rundown?
Right, go on.
Interviewer, sounds like it's different compared to the other expansions, Yoshida. Although there are things that haven't changed, Shadowbringers can be experienced like a continuation of a TV series. But, like previous expansions, we aim to deliver a story and game experience that rivals or has even more than a new standalone RPG title, and that concept hasn't changed. In my personal interjection, if it's anything like Heavensward, fine. I've seen multiple people say that they liked Heavensward more than single-player RPGs, let alone MMO expansions. Anyway, back to it. Some content we spread out horizontally in the past will receive vertical build-ups to each of them, and the volume of content surpasses that of the past. I hope new people enjoy the expansion as a brand new FF series title. Another interjection, I can actually say that we've already got some comment on that. For example, both Heavensward and Stormblood launched with 8 dungeons. Shadowbringers is going to be launching with 9 dungeons. So we're already going with that. So who knows, maybe we're getting more content.
To be honest, if I may,
yeah,
it's good that we get more content, but that's never been the problem of Final Fantasy XIV, the amount of content. What's been the biggest problem of this game is how long that content endures and stays relevant.
Well, I mean, the content in Final Fantasy XIV is in a bit of a weird state, because on one hand, you can say that content can become irrelevant in a matter of months. For example, the moment Echo drops on the Savage raid tier, a lot of people stop doing it. But on the other hand, content in this game very rarely ever becomes truly obsolete. For example, the roulettes do a really good job of putting people into old content. People still regularly do old content for glams and unique rewards. A good example of this is the fact that the diadem is dead as a doorknob. It is completely and utterly irrelevant. But on the other hand, it's really good for gathering materials, and every time I go in there to gather materials, I always bump into other people. So there's still people that use diadem despite the fact that it is, air quotes, irrelevant content.
And just to emphasize on that as well, as you can see from my title as well, there's still a lot of people that do the Pam Coil Savage. For me, I did the Mullah's Scholar, which I'm not incredibly good at healing, and yet I somehow did it. And I've got all 4 titles, and when people do that together, it feels like more of a tight-knit community than anything else.
Like, Final Fantasy XIV, and this was true even back in ARR, has always had a thing with the way that the gear has always worked is that people will always catch up eventually. But what happens is when you put in the extra effort to be ahead of the gear curve. For example, when a new Savage Raid tier drops, eventually, 6-7 months down the line, a year down the line, you know that there's going to be crafted gear that's better than the Savage gear from that tier, or the upgrade materials will be buyable with coins. But you do that, and you put in the effort to stay ahead of the curve. And on the other flip side of the coin, this game has no perfect catch-up mechanisms either. You still have to use leveling gear when you level your classes. You still have to go through Ironworks and Shire and hold on to dungeon gear. And when you get up to the current expansion, the last few tiers can be difficult. For example, for anyone that is has currently just finished the Stormblood main story quest, they can't immediately jump up to eye level 400. They're going to need to run dungeons to collect Mendacity to get the Mendacity gear. They might even need to do the hunt to get the old creation gear with hunt seals. So,
excepting, of course, those people fortunate enough to have enough financial reserves to buy themselves something like the 380 crafted gear.
Yeah,
Or
that's true.
for the really hardcore people, and let's just say it out loud, there is always the option of Eureka gear.
Ha. That But yeah, so FF14 has always had this kind of self-smoothing gear curve, where it's not necessarily that the devs go out of their way to make progression easier. It's just that things happen to line up that way. For example, when the 380 gear first came out, it was absurdly expensive because it was brand new, cutting edge. The Raiders were all
Not to
grabbing
me.
it. The Raiders, well, if you have 40 million plus gil like I do,
I didn't even
Craft
have
a
the skills.
brag.
I have the skills to craft it.
yeah. But again, well, that's a different thing. That's if you're a crafter, because this game actually respects people that put in the effort to be high tier crafters.
And on that note, like, I didn't buy any free 80 gear. Me and my old static, we gathered all the mats, we crafted it all for ourselves, we melted it all for ourselves, and that still was a bit of a Jill hit all around because some mats were just tool gear locked off to get all of it before we wanted to go in day one. But
I don't
what
think
were
it
those
was that
pieces
bad.
selling for day one? Like 5-8 million? Or
Yeah,
something?
there were
Some of the
like
gear
body
were
pieces
selling
going for 5 million plus, accessories going for 2.5 million.
That's ridiculous, but that's when the cut gear is completely new.
Of course.
And as you said, Variel, like, the Final Fantasy is good with having a smooth progression curve. If you're still, like, coming off the main story, you don't have to go through 4 sets of tomestones to get to a good gear level. There's only one current set of tomes and one capped set of tomes.
On the other hand, you also can't immediately leap to the top tier of gear. Like, you won't just go straight from the 290 gear at the end of Stormblood all the way to eye level 400.
If you have friends that can craft you the stuff, sure, that's a good
Yeah.
leap, but it's not still the end of it, because crafted gear is not the end. There's still the raiding gear and the tombstone augmented stuff.
Yeah.
Just to remind you guys,
Actually-
there is actually an augmentation for crafted gear now that brings the crafted gear up to the non-augmented tombstone level. And given that this is the last tier, and we are going to go into Shadowbringers into the new leveling gear, I would like to remind you that the level 71 dungeon is likely, if tradition holds, to drop 390 gear. The level 73 dungeon will likely drop I400 gear. So if you have 380, 390 gear, you are good. The new level 71 crafted gear that you can wear at level 70, you just need to be 71 to make it, will probably be item level 385.
I will also say, in regards to getting it's called the it's called like the Yama gear, the upgraded Rakshasa gear. It probably isn't worth it because it's very expensive in terms of mendacity.
2100.
Yeah, 2100 for a full set. This close to the release of Shadowbringers, what you are best off doing is you are best off capping your mendacity and capping your genesis, so that your poetics. So when the new expansion comes out, you can spend your poetics, then convert your mendacity and your genesis into more poetics.
Likely, and I'm going to inject again, sorry for that. Likely, you will only be able to exchange your mendacity initially. You will probably only be able to exchange your genesis once the second new tombstone in Shadowbringers becomes active.
That tombstone will be coming out 4 weeks after Shadowbringers launches.
Yes.
I have so many Genesis I need to get rid of.
I'm capped on Genesis, and to be honest, I have been for a while. I just got nothing to spend it on.
I'm capped on Genesis and Mendacity, and I don't have anything to spend on.
No, I'm also capped, and my inventory is so completely full, I can't even have room for more gear anyways. Gear sets, armory chest, everything is full.
I actually keep spending
Can I
my
please have 10 more
poetics
gear sets?
and mendacity over and over and just exchanging them for company seals and liquidating them to cash.
That's actually a good idea, to be
Yeah.
honest. Should we keep the interview
Yes.
going because there's still a lot to
Yes,
go
there
through?
is. I was about to suggest we go back to that. So the players are interested in the new story. Yoshida, we went through desperate measures to create the main scenario this time. The story will accelerate towards the end of one section of FF14's story. Players might even worry about the amount of reveals and be anxious about the game ending soon. We included a lot of features that revolve around the scenario, so we'd like players to enjoy every single part of it. I got 3 things to add to that. One, apparently the guy who wrote the Dark Knight quest line is either in charge or one of the people in charge of the Shadowbringers quest line. You know, the only job quest line that people actually respect as a story. 2, we know for a fact that Eden is going to be tied to the main storyline, which is one of the things that made Coils such an incredible experience. And 3, Hydaelyn and Zodiac are not primals. That was a bad translation on Koji's part.
Thank you.
What Solus actually said is, if he was to explain what they were to us, he would say that they are like primals. So what that actually means is, we are too ignorant of the situation. We do not have enough context to understand what Hydaelyn and Zodiac could possibly be. They aren't primals. They don't behave like primals. Stop calling them primals.
It was just because of that teaser trailer
Yeah.
the end of it.
In
he
fact,
just
actually,
said it.
if you actually listen word for word to what Solus says in the English teaser trailer, he still says that. He still says that he would liken them to primals. It's just worded in a way that makes it a lot less obvious than in the Japanese or German ones.
Yeah, it's like ye olde Eorzean English,
Yes.
basically. It's kind of screws with you sometimes.
This is the dude who brought you such fantastic treasures as everything Urianger has ever said, or Starboard Larboard. Anyway,
There it is.
back to the
Starboard.
back to the interview. How's the game doing in North America, Yoshi? North American numbers are really visible and easy to tell how they act. When a new patch releases, a lot of new players flood in and take a break after they are finished with what they accomplished. This then repeats itself for each patch and heats up again before the expansion. The North American region has the most amount of players, and even during the calm between patches, they have the highest amount of players. So that's basically just confirmation with Yoshi P that the game behaves how anyone that plays this game expects. How about EU? This is probably relevant to a lot of our users. Yoshida. It's about to puncture. Puncture actually being the specific word the translation uses. Each server is reaching its limit, and we have already decided to add 2 servers, those being Spriggan and Chaos and Twintania on Light. Light got the better server name. Suck it, Chaos.
Indeed.
Suck it, Chaos!
Interviewers. So you had to add a server no matter what. Yoshida, yes. The EU region is growing at a scary pace, and it's come to a point where we have to limit character creations on all EU servers. So basically, for everyone who is mad about the server split, that was necessary because the EU server was about to explode. I don't know the exact numbers, so don't quote me on this. But from what I read, Stormblood finished with something like 3 times the player base in the EU data centers that Heavensward had. Adding new servers and splitting the data centers and doing things like that is absolutely necessary. If anyone remembers, shortly before the split, the original Chaos data center was crashing all the goddamn time, specifically because of 2 servers, which are now currently on the current Chaos data center. I'm not going to name those servers, partially because I don't remember them, and partially because I don't care. Light boy.
But that's the thing, like, EU is, as you said, about to explode, but I can still say it's basically on fire, because we're feeling the server lag every day.
They also had to do a server split in North America. And also continuing on with the interviewer asks about Japan, and Yoshi says, the JP servers are also continuing to grow consistently, and the numbers haven't decreased for a long while. Thanks to the schedule where we precisely spread collab events and content out after the expansion, even though it's before the expansion, the numbers haven't dropped and new players are rushing in. We're also respecting the turn, of all those players taking a break, so we're in an extremely good state. So that's just simply covering the new ways the data centers go. Everyone who... Thankfully, I missed this because I started playing on patch 4.1 and only caught up on patch 4.3. But anyone with Stormblood knows Rauban Extreme. With all of the... which actually, by the way, this isn't covered in the interview, but this is something else that happened. They have now added a queue system to solo instances. So Rauban Extreme is never going to happen again. I mean, you may end up waiting 40 minutes in a queue because everyone is trying to bum rush it, but it's never going to be as bad as what happened with Rauban. Yeah. Aisuru, if you don't know what happened, basically at the very start of the Stormblood questline, pretty much as soon as you get into the fringes, there was an instance where you have to talk to Rauban, and he puts you into a solo instance where you have to fight a bunch of Garleans. It was a ridiculous bottleneck for, I think it was like 2 or 3 weeks. It literally got so bad, people went away and leveled to 70 in PvP or in old content before finally coming back. It absolutely bottlenecked everyone's progress through the story.
What I did back when it happened, because I was in there on release, and I got to the point where Rauban was an issue, but we had both the fringes and the peaks to do some more questing in, so I went and did that. And then people started forming a queue, because apparently that's a good idea. So I stood in queue for 3 hours, moving slowly down the path to Rauban. And then there was a huge pile at the end, where I stood for 6 hours spamming the goddamn NPC until around 3 a.m. Where I don't know what happened, but half the server got disconnected at once. And everyone was still left on there, could get in, no questions asked.
Yeah, part of the issue...
I don't know if that was Square Enix or the server.
No, what basically happened there is you had the entire player base trying to access one single instance, and the players unintentionally DDoSed the instance server. Because if anyone doesn't know about this, every data center has a hidden extra server which exists purely for instanced content. So anytime that you go into a solo instance, or you go into instance content like a dungeon or a raid or a trial or Eureka or whatever, you're actually being transferred from your home server, Lich or Zodiac or wherever you are, to a new, what's called the content world. So when people were spamming the shit out of Rauban, the server was desperately trying to move every single one of those players from their world into the content world. And remember, these are players, the data center split hadn't happened, so these are all of the EU players doing this all at once, basically. The player base DDoSed the content world and crashed the content world multiple times, and that's probably the reason why you DC'd when you were trying to get in, Angel, because the server managed to transfer you to the content world, then the content world crashed.
Well, I got in. I did Rauban, and I pushed over to Pippin because I heard he was also an issue.
Oh yeah,
got both of those done. Yeah, and then I had done that for like 9 hours of my life, been standing in queue and spamming NPCs. So that's when I said, this is day 1 for me, I'm gonna go to bed now.
Yeah, like, let's put it this way. The devs, not only have they implemented a queuing system, they're all acutely aware of how dumb having an instance trial that early in the story was, and they're not doing it again. All of the guys...
So they did it again in 4.1.
Sorry?
They did the same shit in 4.1, where we had another quest battle at the start of the main story, and everyone was queued up for that as well.
Which one was that again? I remember it happened.
I only can remember the location. It was somewhere on the Ruby Prize. And it might have been 4.1 or 4.2. I don't precisely remember, sorry. But I do remember very clearly that there was a second quest battle at the start of the main scenario of the patch, which absolutely brought the servers to their knees and had people bitching at maximum volume.
Yeah.
Well, that's all usually what people do in these scenarios.
Just,
The netcode for this game is awful, and I can definitely blame Tanaka for that one.
Mm-hmm. So, if we're gonna go back to the interview, there's something about the jump potion. Should we just skip that?
Let's jump potions.
TLDR, Yoshi is going to continue using jump potions. That is really all that was mentioned. He described it as like jumping in Season 4 of a TV series, which, I mean, that doesn't hold up for multiple reasons, but whatever. I'm pretty sure that Yoshi P at this point is kept alive purely by his cigarettes, his coffee, and the thrill of killing the interns that fail him.
Yeah.
You know the stereotype that Asian people don't age. I'm glad that my man Yoshi out there representing, defying the stereotype. He looks so tired. That man desperately needs a good night's sleep.
He needs several good nights' sleep.
I'm pretty sure he hasn't had a good night's sleep since he took over FF14, because also...
Apparently
while
they have a
he
break
was-
day every Sunday.
Yeah, also, just while he is in charge of FF14, he is also in charge of Dragon Quest X, and he was in charge of Dragon Quest Builders. And I believe they also dragged him in to do work on 15 a couple times.
And he's now in charge of FF17. 16 or 17. Yes, he is.
What?
TLDR, Square Enix works Yoshi P like an absolute dog, and it's no wonder he looks as tired as he does.
No, and he also has that position of Famitsu, as you mentioned earlier, his column of
That
blog or
actually
whatever
is a different thing. He actually enjoys doing that. He considers that like one of his relaxing little rituals.
Relaxing.
Yeah, he likes it. Basically, the entire thing behind it is that way back in the past, Yoshi P asked Famitsu if they could advertise Final Fantasy XIV, because obviously this was back at the time when they were relaunching and they were coming off the tail end of 1.x, and the community was so absolutely fucking pissed over the whole ordeal, it actually tanked Squeenix's stock. It was that bad. And Famitsu turned around and said, "Fine, we will give you advertising space every week for the foreseeable future if you write us a column." And Yoshi P was like, "Damn, bitch, that's actually a fantastic deal." And he cartwheeled out of the room, and I'm pretty sure I'm embellishing at this point.
Because it
I'm not
saved
sure
his
you
game.
are.
No,
It saved
what
his
actually
game.
happened is Yoshi P's rings glowed, and the Japanese version of the 18 bust in through the wall and helps him get out. Have you seen how many rings he wears?
Yeah.
He's like the Japanese Mr. T.
Oh my god.
I pity the fool.
In fact, you know what? The comparison goes quite well, because just like Mr. T, he has a mysteriously threatening aura, yet an extremely wholesome outlook. Anyway, back to the interview. Shadowbringers will bring 2 new jobs, but we'd like you to start by talking about Gunbreaker and its characteristics. Yoshida. Just like the job's name spells out, Gunbreaker was born from the Gunblade. Gunblades that first appeared in FF8 wasn't a weapon where you can shoot and slash, but instead a weapon that enhances its attacks by pulling the trigger right as you slashed. We brought this concept to life by introducing the Soil, that is a direct translation, it's called the powder gauge in English, mechanic. We decided to provide the game experience of pull the trigger, Piglet, by having abilities in between the GCDs. Gunbreaker's going to deliver...
Dark Arts.
No, actually. You shut up for a second. Gunbreakers can deliver a high pace of attacks by managing the powder gauge. As an aside, what he's referring to there is Gunbreaker has 2 rotations. It has a 4-part GCD rotation, just like the other tanks. Well, 4 instead of 3. But it also has a proc-based OGCD rotation that uses the powder gauge, which gives Gunbreaker a whopping 7-part main combo. Essentially,
So Dragoon, basically.
essentially, better than that actually. Essentially, the first 3 abilities in Gunbreaker's rotation gives what was it? They have an They have an OGCD called Continuation, which changes based on procs that you get from the main rotation. It goes like, I don't know the order, but it goes like ready to rip, ready to tear, ready to break, or something like that. Bring out your doom macros. Bring out your doom macros. So the way it goes is you use your first ability, get a proc, which allows you to use Continuation. You then get a second ability. You then use the second ability, which gives you another proc, which changes what Continuation does, and you use Continuation. You then get a third ability, which changes what Continuation does to a third thing. Use that, and then you use your finisher. You're not going to be constantly using Continuation, at least as far as I know, because using Continuation requires gauge resources, so you're not going to be constantly using a 7-part rotation and destroying your mouse. But it does lead Gunbreaker to a much faster paced and dynamic style of play than the other 3 tanks. But back to the interview. How about dancers? Yoshida. It all began from simply trying to express dances in a game. It consists of 2 layers, steps and choosing one dance partner. Instead of pumping the entire party, it was developed with the direction of enhancing yourself and your dance partner. We made it so that you can really enjoy the dancing feel as you control your character. It's really well made, so we'd like you to try it out. Watching the dancer fight and dance in this game is beautiful and a fresh experience. Another interjection from yours truly. I don't know exactly how it works, but Dancer has what's known as a big dance finisher that they have to work towards by you doing what looks like a semi-random chain of non-damaging OGCDs. And if the more of these you get correct in a row, the stronger your finishing dance will be. If you can get all 4 in a row, you'll give everyone around you a 6% damage boost and punch the enemy in the face for 1,500 potency.
Can I interject for a second?
Yes.
What I've seen of it, how this works, is you do those OGCDs, and the big finisher you get after that is basically to compensate for all the time you spent doing those OGCDs to make up for the quote-unquote lost DPS from that.
Yes. I was just about to say that 1,500 potency is not as big as it seems because you had to use up to 4 non-damaging OGCDs to get it. Oh, well, you can't change life. Here we go. What about the job's difficulty? Yoshida-san. We expect it to be a popular job, including how it looks. As long as you understand the steps, the controls are very simple, and it's balanced, so there won't be too much of a gap depending on your player skill. I think it's a job that anyone can touch and enjoy. Gunbreakers are the opposite and created with a concept that we haven't had before, so it's a little technical and a busy job. In return, it rewards you the more you get used to it. It's like a surumi, which is this weird Japanese squid snack, that starts to shine the more you bite into it. I think that's just one of Yoshi P's trademark weird analogies. Looking forward to try it in a party. Yoshida. We prepared 2 attractive jobs, one with an iconic weapon, Gunblade, and another that is visually appealing and dances around. I hope these 2 jobs bring in new FF14 players, not only with their game experience, but also with artwork and CG designs for them. Does everyone remember when Stormbringer dropped, and everyone and their bloody mother decided to switch to Samurai and deafen everyone with Madare Setsugeta?
Yeah, but a reason many people did try out the new jobs was because a lot of other jobs got pretty gutty at the start of Stormblood.
I'm so glad I missed that as well.
Yeah, you missed out on like Scholar being total trash, Dark Knight being total trash, Dragoon being barely unplayable, like at least from an enjoyment standpoint, and a lot of other
I didn't miss out on Black Mage being objectively inferior to Summoner. Boy, that really made me mad. I will actually say, just as because the interview is just about to move on to the Eden race, so I can probably take an interview there. I was just going to say, I think one of the reasons why a lot of classes got really screwed over at the beginning of Stormblood is they wanted to fundamentally change the combat and move away from the way it worked in Heavensward, like they are trying to do now, but they didn't go far enough. So a lot of classes got stuck in this weird limbo where they lost too much but didn't gain enough in return, and that's why Square Enix had to run around putting out fires and doing damage control. And the reason why I don't think that will happen at the start of Shadowbringers is because A, they are going further. They are fundamentally throwing out a bunch of like sacred MMO sacred cows. They're doing what they feel like they need to do. They're going all the way. And on top of that, they have the feedback both from the disasters through Stormblood and the successes through Stormblood as well. Not every class got screwed over by Stormblood. And also the feedback from the way they changed classes at the beginning of Heavensward. Because I will tell you another class which got an unremittent joy from Stormblood was Black Mage. Enochian went from being a boost to being permanent. We got Between the Lines and triple cast. Flare became actually usable.
So what you're saying is Yoshi P's main class got all the love and attention in the world. I wonder why.
You stop that before I find you and throw cold water on you.
Ice water? You gotta conjure some ice water up on me?
I'll use closer to on you if you want.
I will dunk you. I will force you to take a night's sleep.
You can't force me to sleep because I can't.
I will bash you over the head with something large and heavy. I think that's the only way you'll ever go to sleep.
your little staff.
Just for some context for the people tuning in who don't happen to be members of the Citadel of Light, Angel here has been running a BA Discord for the last several months, and he's basically been getting 3 hours of sleep a night for those months. The man is killing himself. He needs help.
But I'm still here. I'm still here and you can't kill me, so go ahead and try.
Okay. Back to the interview. Sorry, unless either of our guests have something to add here.
Not really.
This is on to Eden, interviewer. The next high-end raid, the Garden of Hope Eden, it's just called Eden in English, will have its characters and bosses designed by the infamous was added by me, Tetsuya Nomura. But can you tell how and why you chose him? Yoshida-san. I cannot go into details, but we always had this idea of implementing a certain boss, and we started by thinking how Tetsu-san would interpret this boss. Interviewer. Do you have any precise orders for him? Yoshida-san. We told him, this is the story we came up with, and these are the roles for each character. It's up for you to interpret and decide the rest, and got him to design them. How Tetsu-san interprets it was important. We gave him all the settings and lore and asked him to just go ahead and draw as you like. Interviewer. FF fans should focus on his work. Variel's note. Everyone who isn't me, I'm reading. My note. My interjection. Yeah. Everyone else who isn't a fan of FF. First of all, why the hell are you here? But secondly, you should also know who he is, because this is the absolute lunatic mind behind Kingdom Hearts. Yoshida-san. Tetsu-san is someone who has been involved with FF from the old ages. It depends on your generation, but those overseas should be familiar with his work on FF6 and FF7. My note, widely considered the best 2 FF games there are. Back to Yoshida. Having someone as iconic as him perfectly suits the Shadowbringers title. After seeing characters created by Tetsu and liking them, it would be nice if they take the next step and Cosplay,
I think.
The guy who wrote this up was apparently in a bit of a rush. I'm going to assume it's cosplay. Cosplay is them and push the FF-ness inside FF14 even further. Finally, having a character designed by Tetsu in the FF theme park is a concept we always aimed for.
Because if I remember correctly, Mr. Tetsu-san there, he was the character designer for 7, and I think he was also the character designer for 6, but don't quote me on that. And after that, he's gone on to take on more prominent roles like producer and director for the FF series overall.
If anyone else has anything to add, feel free. I personally just simply have to say that I am dicks out excited for Eden, because this looks like it's, assuming nothing absolutely disastrous happens, this is shaping up to be the best raid series we've got so far. We're going to have the mechanical interest and complexity of Stormblood, the music and story quality of Alexander, and the weight and gravitas of Coils.
Can I just ask a thing? I've always kind of wondered this, since it's a completely different timeline and somehow Minfilia is going to be alive. I've always wondered, since the release of the Shadowbringers trailer, it's always been in the back of my mind, and I only wanted to voice it now. What if, because it's a completely different timeline, Calamity Bahamut wasn't destroyed by Lewis Swan?
Let me stop you there. Sorry, let me just stop you there. It's not a different timeline. It's a different shard. The shards are not alternate timelines, nor are they parallel worlds. They are other worlds, where way back before recorded history, the original world broke into the source and 13 reflections. At that point, all of their timelines began to deviate. I don't exactly know why Minfilia is in this. My personal bet is that Minfilia is basically becoming to Hydaelyn what the Ascians are to Zodiac, and Minfilia is like Hydaelyn's agent in the physical world.
I just wanted to know if
can I please interject?
Yeah. Like destruction.
We have had this piece of story. We know what Minfilia has become.
The voice of Hydaelyn.
Yes.
Correct?
We have had this story in 3.3 when we went to the Anti-Tower. We have had this story in 3.4 after we, quote-unquote, defeated the Warriors of Darkness, when Minfilia, in her guise as the voice of the Mother, went with them to the First.
Yeah, Minfilia, in my opinion, never died. She just switched to being a more
she
never
called
form.
She got called to the Mother. She got called to the Crystal.
There's just one issue with that, which is what I think a lot of people, including me, are getting a bit confused on, which is when Minfilia became the voice of the Mother, she was still Minfilia, but the Minfilia we've seen in the trailers is a little girl, and on top of that, appears to have no memories of her time with Thancred.
Well, maybe she's switched to corporeal form and then back to human form. She needed a new vessel, and that vessel, amnesia, because video games.
Yeah. We're gonna have to wait until Shadowbringers...
I was just wondering if there was gonna be like a Calamity Bahamut in that part of the shard. Or if Calamity Bahamut didn't even exist in that shard.
I can actually also give you a specific reason why that's not the case. Dragons are unique to the source. There are no dragons in other worlds. Because, long story short, they come from another world, completely separate to the source and the 13 reflections. And they were chased to this world by Omega, who was trying to kill them all. Eventually they couldn't go any further, and the dragons, and Omega as well, crash-landed on the source. So dragons won't be on any of the other worlds, because dragons came to the source after the split that created the 13 reflections.
Yeah, but
basically, Omega...
Bahamut's the primal.
Oh, Bahamut, yes, Bahamut is a primal, but Bahamut the Primal was based on Bahamut the Dragon. Without Bahamut the Dragon, there is no Bahamut the Primal.
Oh, yeah. Just wondered. That's all.
So, basically the dragons exist in our world because they were chased here by Omega from Final Fantasy V.
Who knows? Okay, so I just, because this has got some really fucking hot controversial news here, I've just got to say beforehand, please don't interrupt me when I'm reading this part. But, materials for Ishgard Restoration will be gathered in Diadem. Interviewer, the Ishgard Restoration is endgame content for crafters and gatherers, but what is the game experience going to be like? Yoshi, I think the ultimate end game for crafters and gatherers will still be market building related. However, the hurdle is really high for players who just started playing MMORPGs. Our aim is to provide an opportunity for players to be praised by others through a long-term competition. Interviewer, what triggered this idea? What you gain from the market, in other words, gil, isn't something that makes others praise you. So we wanted to step in. We tried new challenges for battle content with Diadem and Eureka. So this time we wanted to try something new for crafters and gatherers, and I brought it up and got the devs to start planning it. Me interjection. I think what Yoshi-san means by praise other players isn't like people just going, wow, you're absolutely amazing, but something that allows you to show off your skill. Kind of like how Angel has the ultimate legend and the ultimate weapons that marks him as someone who has cleared ultimates. There isn't really an equivalent to that for crafters. Anyway, back to the interviewer. When will it be added? Yoshi, patch 5.1, so not on release day, sadly. It's still too early to discuss it in detail, but there will be several series of progression within the same patch. An enormous amount of mats and hand-ins will be necessary to finish the restoration, and Diadem will be involved in the process. Interviewer, ho ho. Man, even the interviewer knows that no one likes Diadem. Yoshi, Diadem's exploration progressed as players did their work, so we are going to rebalance the whole island. The basic image is, go to the Diadem and gather materials, use that to craft, and repeat this to restore Ishgard. Talks about the ranking we find out about in the other interview, so sadly we're not going to be talking about it here. Some players might feel cramped if we provoke too much competition, but we also think competing is a part of gaming, so we'd like to challenge what we haven't done before, and hope to find something new by using that as an experience. Interviewer, why are you splitting them into seasons? Oh yeah, they're splitting the crafter leaderboard into seasons, much like how PvP is split into seasons. Yoshi-san, to avoid the same person from dominating the top ranks, if we have a rule where you can't re-obtain a prize, it'll provide space for others to work hard. Note, talks about info. Yoshi proceeds to talk about info that we've known for a while. We will continue to update the content and expand on its size. So just that's the end of the interview, but just for me to add, the developers have said that they will be adding a leaderboard to the Ishgard restoration, where the more you do towards the restoration, the more, air quotes, points you will get. The more points you get, the higher on the leaderboard you are. If you are above a certain point, you will get unique rewards. Much like how there is a PvP leaderboard, and if you get above a certain point on the PvP leaderboard, you will get special rewards. Much like how Aleutia's title there, the Platinum Wolf, you only get if you are in the top...
No. This title you get by finishing your season while you have a platinum tier score. If I would have gotten to platinum tier but would have demoted to gold, I would not have gotten this title. I would have gotten the Gold Wolf title because I finished the season in gold tier.
Okay, fair enough. So also, because I know someone is going to be concerned about this, there has been absolutely no statement as to whether or not this Gatherer competition leaderboard will affect your progress through the Ishgard restoration storyline. And me, personally, this is, I have no real evidence to base this on, but I'm pretty damn sure that the guys over at Square Enix aren't going to force you to get in, I don't know, the top 100 to finish the Ishgard restoration storyline. Mainly because they like this game being fairly accessible, and as they like not screwing people over by making content inordinately difficult. Alright, I'm done now.
So, is this leaderboard at all going to be tied into the housing area?
They have not said so, and I'm personally extremely doubtful of that.
I've heard from
Like,
my previous FC that Yoshi himself said there's not going to be Ashgardian housing.
What?
But that's basically been confirmed at this point, that we're getting
Ishgard
housing with this whole restoration, but how they work into each other is really up in
It
the
was
air.
Confirmed months ago by the devs themselves that they are adding Ishgard housing with the Ishgard restoration. So I don't know where your old FC lead got that from.
I'm just scared that, like, oh, you're top 100 on the leaderboard for crafters. Well, then you can go buy a house. XD.
Yeah, it's not going to work like that. I mean, I guess I haven't seen any explicit evidence to say that they're not doing that, but I also haven't seen any evidence that that's going to work either, and that really doesn't seem like Square Enix's style.
Like, they have so many times already have so much hate because how they've handled the housing situation.
Yeah, not only that, but they are aware of how the housing works, and they are completely aware of the fact that people want more housing, and this is literally adding an entire new housing ward. This is increasing the number of houses in the game by 20%. So, yeah.
I just hope it looks good in the end, because a lot of people have been looking forward to it and screaming about Ishgard housing all the way since Heaven's Ward.
Unless the Ishgard housing area looks like absolute crap, I'm probably going to try and move my FC house there.
I'm just going to stay in the Goblet. I like being in the Goblet.
Finally, someone who likes the Goblet.
We found one person.
2. I like the Goblet.
I'm just going to stick it out here.
The Goblet actually looks nice aesthetic-wise.
The lavender beds, in my opinion, is the worst area. I don't know quite how to describe it, but the place looks dirty to me, like overgrown and weedy, as opposed to like lush and forest.
It's the bloody forest.
Have you ever been in a real forest, Variel?
Yes, but
it's not like nicely kept.
You see, there is one issue with that. It's not the forest. It's a bloody housing estate.
Yeah, I get your
Maybe
point.
some people would have lived with trees. You ever thought of that?
Okay,
I think that's called dendrophilia.
Before these guys decide to hang me from a tree for that extremely controversial statement, I should probably continue with the interview.
Is there anything else of a substance in there?
Yes.
Okay, go on then.
Like I said, interview. So this is now onto the role quests. Which, if people don't know what the role quests are, go watch the bloody live letter. More importantly, they are replacing the job quests with role quests, which are based on the individual roles. So instead of having a Dark Knight questline and a Warrior questline and a Paladin questline, there's just a tank questline. The role quests that will be introduced with Shadowbringers were explained as something where you re-experience the Warriors of Darkness story. But will Albert and the other Warriors of Darkness show up in the story? Yoshi, yes. We don't need to hide that. The screenshot we showed during the live letter allows you to imagine. So these are the Warriors of Darkness when they were young. When we talked about how Lalafell are called dwarves on the first, players were discussing that the White Mage of Darkness showed her face, even though she's a dwarf. Don't worry, the Dwarf Warrior of Darkness will be wearing a helmet in those quests. We wrote a proper story for her as well, so please enjoy it. Let me just scroll up a bit. Here we go. There was also a little bit of information provided higher up in the translation. The Warriors of Darkness will look younger than when we saw them in 3.4, so that we will be re-experiencing their adventures that led to them becoming the Warriors of Darkness. We will be dealing with, there will be Blanhers, the Knight of Darkness for the tank role quests, Jerumail, the Ranger of Darkness for physical DPS, Nalibert, the Magus of Darkness for casters, and Lamini, the Devout of Darkness for healers. If you don't know who they are, Blanhers is the big-ass Rogadin Paladin, Jerumail is the Makote Bard, Nalibert is the, I don't know what race he is, because he was wearing the full Petassos outfit.
I think
he was the Black Mage, and Lamini was the little Lalafell White Mage. Okay, back to the...
And basically, these are the same characters we saw in the 2.0 trailer.
Yeah, which is
back.
A touch that I actually quite like. Anyway, back to the interview. Where was I? Oh, here we go. Interviewer. There are a variety of playstyles in FF14 now, and you have players who are passionate about taking photos with the group pose feature. Players who have their own restaurant and those who perform music and roleplay in their own fashion. I think Dough and Mahjong is the pinnacle of varied content. What are you planning to the next step? Yoshi, yes, we still can't talk about elements as organized as Dome and Mahjong. We do want to vitalize the community with one more push. With the addition of the world visit system, a lot of events are starting to be held by players and those who want to participate and those who are probably demanding a casual feature. Interview, what do you mean?
Yeah, just like we're using the...
Yep.
Go on. Sorry, I thought you were done.
What do you mean? For example, if a player enters a famous bar type of house, it doesn't mean they want to heavily interact with the owner. They just want to sit down or take a sneak peek. To further promote these aspects, we're developing a circle system. That's a tentative name. Details are in the summary above. If a notice comes from the circle they are a part of, it might make players want to participate in those events. This circle feature is to help those players who have their own events. By the way, a circle feature is not a link shell. What they are doing is it is a much more loose way of organizing people in game than a link shell or an FC. It
Probably gonna
doesn't
work
have
like
a chat.
the housing tax.
Let me finish. Quiet, you. It does they actually explicitly told the guys working on it to exclude a chat function. But what the circle is like is someone will run the circle. So, for example, if anyone remembers Morgana she has a roleplay focused FC that holds a lot of events. So Morgana will run a circle. You can tag in, or you can join a circle, and the leader of the circle can use that circle to send an announcement to everyone in that circle. It is not a link shell. You cannot talk to other people through your circle, but it's a way in game of people being able to send notifications of important events through the game as opposed to relying on Discord. Let me see. Sorry, back to the interview. Here we go. Do you have any final words for the readers? That's for Famitsu readers, not for players. Any words for current players? Yoshi, we developed this expansion so players can feel this expansion is finally around the corner and get excited about it. The reason behind this is because as a player myself, I don't want there to be an atmosphere like, yeah, the usual expansion we're used to is here again after 2 years. Since we have an expansion in the same 2-year cycle, it's inevitable for some players to feel that way. But our largest goal is to make players think, you don't have to update 4.x anymore. Just let us play the expansion already. Which, I mean, I think they've succeeded at that. I'm pretty sure there are people who will literally sell their kidneys to move up the Shadowbringers launch date. I haven't seen a community this hyped in a long time. I haven't been this hyped in a long time.
Same, to be honest, because I've seen a lot of people wanting Shadowbringers desperately because they want to continue with the main scenario.
That's basically the Famitsu interview covered. There are a couple of other details, but they're not particularly important. That more or less covers everything. So,
and as you said, people are hyped. I haven't been hyped since Heavensward. Because Stormblood did not excite me. Like, nothing I saw leading up to Stormblood actually really excited me. Outside of, yes, we're getting new levels and new content and new zones. That's nice. But nothing really in that entire hype cycle got me super excited. I was even looking at the release trailer with the Revolution song. With like, meh, whatever. But this time around, I am really fucking hyped. And I really want this expansion to launch soon, but we're gonna transition over here into our main topic, and we're gonna start talking about the Stormblood, the wrap-up, basically.
Is
what is
good, because I was just about to say something about Stormblood compared to Shadowbringers. Which is, I don't have as negative opinion of Shadowbringers as a lot of people do. I think it brought a lot of good stuff into the game. Stormblood, sorry. I have an extremely positive opinion of Shadowbringers, and everyone else does. If you have a negative opinion, why? But no, my opinion, I don't dislike Stormblood as much as a lot of other people do. I think it brought a lot of good stuff to the game. I think the big issue that Stormblood faced is that it came after Heavensward, and Heavensward massively revitalized the game. It brought out a extremely popular storyline. It improved the classes. It brought out a lot of new cool features, It also brought out a much smoother game progression compared to ARR. Like, for example, they brought out things like, say, primal totems, so you no longer have to desperately bash your head against the RNG wall to get the weapon that you really badly want.
Oh yeah, someone mentioned to me yesterday they had 380 or so clears of Bismarck without a bird, and then they released the tokens.
Yeah. So, but my point is,
yikes.
Stormblood is a good expansion, but unlike Heavensward, Stormblood is more of the same. Like,
yeah, they played it safe.
Like, for example, Stormblood brought massive quality of life improvements to the game. It moved a lot of things like ventures and beast tribe currencies into the currency tab. It made the classes play a lot smoother. Some classes kind of suffered, but the price of progress. It actually, one thing that I think a lot of people don't give Stormblood enough credit for is Stormblood massively improved crafting and gathering over Heavensward. Crafting and gathering in Heavensward was shit. It was built to make the players suffer. Drop rates for items went down. Materials required went up. Things that were required for basic leveling crafting was moved on to timed nodes for some baffling reason. They even brought out scripts and made it necessary and then put a fucking cap on the scripts that later had to be removed. Stormblood is a massive improvement compared to Heavensward in crafting. But anyway, the big reason why I think Shadowbringers is being a lot better received over Stormblood is that while Stormblood brought out a lot of good stuff, and it improved on almost everything Heavensward did, but it didn't actually bring out anything new. Meanwhile, Shadowbringers is not only shaping up to be interesting and fun, it is also bringing something new to the table. I mean, they're giving Dark Knights a stand.
Yeah, they're making Dark Knight's story really, really, really interesting, in my opinion. When I was leveling up Dark Knight, I didn't particularly want to pick up a tank, but then when I saw the questline for Dark Knight, I was really interested in learning why we had a second half. Why did we have a shadow so-and-so, and why did we fight ourselves?
So, as you were mentioning there, Variel, they fixed a lot of stuff at crafting in Stormblood, and I agree. Back in 2.x, I was a pretty dedicated crafter and gatherer, self-sufficient all the way. Heavensward rolls around, and the script system and everything just made it a big fucking nope for me. I waited until the Moogle quest came out, and then I, on the side, leveled everything up. I didn't even craft much. Stormblood, on the other hand, yeah, I was leveling up my crafters pretty quickly, but that's also because you could cheese them fucking easy with leaves. All the items that you needed to turn in for leaves in Stormblood, you can buy from vendors in normal quality. And some people say that's not efficient. I say, I spent 500k leveling a crafter from 60 to 70 without any effort. I will say that's a win in my book.
Say, fuck it, I have money.
Yeah, basically. But as I mentioned earlier a bit too, and you did too, Variel, Stormblood didn't add many new exciting things. They played it safe, and sure, a lot of quality of life, but quality of life, in my opinion, is something that can come mid-expansion in patches, and we shouldn't have a big expansion just for quality of life.
Another thing as well I should probably add is that the quality of the content that we're getting in general is higher. For example, compare the Susanoo fight to most of the fights in Heavensward. There is a reason why everyone loves that fight. The music, the visual spectacle, catching the sword.
The memorable voice lines.
Yes, and that continues through. Like, for example, we got Shinryu, which is a bloody awesome fight. For the trials, while the Omegascape trials have basically a non-existent storyline and the music is nowhere as interesting as Alexander, in terms of actual mechanics, like the nitty-gritty of the fight, there were some exceptions, OSEX, but in general, the mechanics were more varied and interesting than a lot of the previous raids. The Evilise raids, especially the Orbon Monastery. Thunder God Sid is, hands down, the best 24-man boss in this game.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that's cool, to be honest.
I also agree with that, but also the fact that you actually have to learn the mechanics of both Ultima, the High Seraph, and Sid, the Thunder God, no relation to someone in COL, is a really good way of getting around your rotations and stuff, because you can't. After Stormblood came out, you can't cheese mechanics anymore. You have to learn them, because
Yeah.
otherwise you will die.
That's actually another thing that they did get fairly good at. The game is harder to cheese. It's not impossible. Cheese will always be there, but it's harder.
And I think a lot of the cheese that they know about now, they can also like think about in the future content and make it so that it won't happen again. I don't think we will see another warrior strat on any savage raid. I'm referring to Phantom Train.
Yeah,
there.
Phantom Train was
Like,
a nightmare for me. Oh god.
Like that warrior cheese was not intended at all, and basically the only reason it works is because a programming fluke.
How would you, if you want to talk about cheesing, how would you like a tank LB in a primal fight to skip an ad? Yep.
See, I think there's like good cheese and there's bad cheese. Like, for example, I personally don't think that skipping mechanics with a tank LB3 is necessarily a terrible thing, because you are sacrificing the LB3 to do that. You're sacrificing either the DPS from a melee LB3 or the recovery of a healer LB3. But there are certainly a lot of cheeses in this game which are just bad. For example, the LB3 cheese meta in speed runs, where where basically what you do is you use stuff like crit lows and invulns and things like that to suicide yourself repeatedly and push yourself to the absolute limit without killing yourself to build as much limit gauge as possible. Like I think the fastest run of Chaos Savage was done before the end of the third elemental phase, and they had something like 7 LB3s.
Jesus.
Oh my god.
That's being adjusted.
Well, thank God for that nonsense, at least.
My personal opinion on Stormblood is that it was a good expansion that a lot of people think worse of than it probably should, because it wasn't as good as Heavensward. And the refinement to the systems as well, because by not doing things new, they got really good at doing what they were already doing. And Stormblood has laid the foundations for Shadowbringers to be a really good expansion. Because they did... Actually, no, there is one thing they did add into Stormblood which did change things quite a lot. The duty action system.
Yes.
Which,
for better or worse, yes.
Which,
it works in some fights.
There's some
well.
fights where it works quite well. For example, Lakshmi or
and
Catastrophe.
And also Monster Hunter. The Monster Hunter one.
There's other fights where it feels a little bit forced, like, for example, the second fight in the Orban Monastery, but I can't really think of any fights in this game which are made worse by the duty action system.
Some would probably argue the painting boss.
The duty action system is the only good thing in that fight.
Yes.
Yeah, because if you didn't have that, that fight would be literally just a striking dummy.
In fact, actually, I remember some people mentioning they found clearing the striking dummy harder than the actual fight. When your savage raid is easier than a fucking striking dummy, something has gone horrendously wrong.
I'm still under the assumption that they were debating internally if they're gonna put that fight first or second, and they just flipped a coin. Because in my opinion, it's easier than Phantom Train.
The thing is,
in my opinion, it is.
The issue is not that it's easier than Phantom Train. The issue is that it is just easy. Like, I feel like there was some miscommunication somewhere, because a savage raid should not be that easy. Like, you want to know an example of good communication is the O11S fight. When they originally made O11S, apparently it was going to be a much more puzzly fight. So it had much more demanding mechanics, but a much less demanding DPS check, and the mechanics were complex to pull off. But when they sent the first draft over to Yoshi, Yoshi said, "This is a really boring fight. Omega's barely here. This is just like making a puzzle. Go back, go make it more interesting." And they decided to scrap the entire fight and give Omega a much greater presence in the fight. And this is how we got glorious things like Panto, which a lot of people in my static managed to finally get up to Panto Crater 2. And damn, when those missiles start going off, it's like it scared the shit out of our tanks.
Understandable. I still remember though the first time I cleared painting, or I think that was with my static. Yeah, my former static. I think it was. And as soon as we got past the lullaby, we had like 1 or 2 more wipes, and then we were just like, wait, the boss at 15%. What? Are we clearing this pool? And then the boss just fell over dead, and everyone's not happy. We're just standing there baffled, being like, did we do something? Did we break the fight? Was that it?
I mean,
okay, fuck it. Moving on to next fight.
Wasn't the world's first clear of Outright basically done on the first pull?
I believe so, because I killed it on my second pull in a pug.
Yeah.
Day 1.
Fun fact about Outright, by the way. You know his clamp move launches you off the arena. Some clever buggers data mined the speed at which Outright hits you, and it is 7.81 malms per second. Malms are the Eorzean equivalent of miles, so he hits you at 7.81 miles per second, which is escape velocity. Outright literally hits you hard enough to launch you into space. That's
just like get a flying snake to yeet you into space. That's one of the greatest things in life.
Just
take note, NASA.
The tank buster basically fucking yeets you out of the interdimensional rift into the void beyond.
I can't talk on this subject because I have barely done any Savage raiding at all.
Hey,
So what did you do in Stormblood? Just PvP?
No, I am actually a very big PvEer. I'm mostly a cooperative player and social player. I spent an awesome amount of time crafting and gathering, not just for myself, but also the people around me. For some reason, I just never enjoyed going to the very hardest fights. I have been getting more into PvP in Stormblood, that's true.
Did you play Heavensward PvP?
Yes.
Could you give us your opinion on the changes to PvP that Stormblood made?
A little bit. I will qualify what I'm about to say with that I started fairly late in Heavensward PvP because my previous MMO was a very PvP intensive game, and after I quit that, I was just so salty and sour about it. I just didn't want to PvP again. So it took me about 2 years to seriously get back into PvP and start liking it again. The Heavensward PvP system worked for frontlines. And it worked pretty well there. Yes, you still had your PvP rotation. Yes, you had your PvP gear. Yes, you had your special PvP skills, which you had to rank up to get. Most of it worked. Then we get Stormblood with the extremely limited skill kits. What was good about the Stormblood PvP system is that it removed PvP rank as a gate to play. If you were just getting started in PvP, the PvP skills could be, depending on class, be exceedingly powerful and exceedingly useful to your way of playing. That got removed. Basically everyone got put on a level. The only real issue with it is that the new PvP system that we got in Stormblood is designed for Feast. It's designed for small party conflicts, 4-on-4, 8-on-8, although they did scrap 8-on-8 later because it wasn't properly balanced, but whatever. The problem is it doesn't work for front lines and what we now have rival wings. And you can actually see this in the damage adjustments that they added into front lines and rival wings for melee and tanks. They had to do that because ranged classes were so incredibly powerful because they had so much space to avoid action. So at the moment, if you are melee or tank in front lines, you will take 30% less damage than listed. You will deal 15% more than listed.
One thing I think they should do to balance that a bit more, make the ranged characters 10% slower and the melees 10% faster, so you can actually catch up to the bastards.
That would make playing a ranged class feel like crap, though.
Yeah, actually, as melee, you have plenty opportunities to catch up to melee. To ranged. Excuse me. That's not the problem. If you properly play as a group, and this is actually the thing that frustrates me the most in Frontline. People are not playing as a group. They are playing as individuals and they're trying to score their personal kill counts. People, please, stop it. Look at your group. Stay with your group. Play with your group. You will get your kills eventually.
But people aren't interested in that. They're there for their experience and their tombstones.
Exactly. Or their
main
glams.
Reason people do front run roulette. Yeah. That's the main reason anyone does front run roulette. They're not there for the content. They're there for the rewards.
And if you really want to play PvP, play it for PvP. But I'm preaching to the choir. It's just a pet peeve of mine. God, now I forgot what I wanted to say. Sorry.
I will also say my one complaint with PvP balancing right now is that healers are way too powerful.
No.
Like I see an entire party beating on one person.
Because they're not doing it right.
Yeah.
This is seriously. I have done frontline so often. I have played as healer. I have played against healer. I've played pretty much every role. I play as tank. I play as warrior in frontlines. I play as dragoon in frontlines. I play as astrologian and I play as bard. I actually play bard throughout most of the Feast solo season. 2 melee are more than enough to finish off a healer if you know how to PvP.
I've seen groups where people have gone after the healer with an actual reasonable loadout. They're not just hitting the healer; they're using stuns and silences to stop the healer from healing themselves, and they're using burst combos to rip down the healer in time, and it still doesn't work.
Again, this is part of a feature of how the system. This is again something that you can blame on the system, with the server ticks that are just horrible for applying precise damage. You would not believe the amount of coordination and precision that goes into bursting people down in Feast. Honestly, you will not believe how tight your burst has to be. But in frontlines, it's a little bit easier because you can pile onto people with enough. Typically, in frontlines, if you want to down a healer, you involve a tank, and preferably you'll involve something like a warrior because home gang. This holds a person in place for 4 seconds. If by some miracle this person survives the home gang, you have a tomahawk. You slowed this person for 3 more seconds. If that doesn't work, you still have onslaught, which is another 2 seconds. So this is a 9-second burst gap that you have to bring someone down. And in that 9 seconds, the healer will only be able to act for about 3 or 4 of them.
Do you think they will make any changes to PvP?
My point, though, is it shouldn't
Until
take...
5.1, there will be no PvP changes.
My point, though, is it shouldn't take this level of fine degree organization.
It takes 2 melee doing a limit break to down a healer.
So 2 limit breaks.
Yes.
To take down, and this is assuming that the healer is not being supported.
Yes.
No, my point is that I'm just saying, at least in my opinion, it shouldn't take this level of coordination and focus to take down one player on their own, which isn't a tank.
I have a video clip somewhere of me running into an enemy base on the fucking Shadow or whatever it is. Standing there as a white mage, healing myself for a minute and a half with like 7 to 8 people waiting on me.
This is actually not, like I said, it's not abnormal. I've played Astrologian and I've just had and I was running back to base, and I had this conga line of the entire enemy group behind me trying to catch up to me and kill me. I actually made it back to my group. No, wait, I think I made it back to my group before they finally got wise and crowd controlled and killed me. But I literally ran across half the map with the entire enemy group behind me because they had no idea what to do.
Yeah, and that's bloody ridiculous.
Why? Why shouldn't incompetence
Also,
be
there's
punished?
because that's not necessarily incompetence. That is the entire enemy team beating on you, and you not even having to put in much effort to withstand it. And not only that, there is an ability that you can pick for your white mage that makes you immune to crowd control for 10 seconds.
No,
and another
this is
ability,
not true.
is
not true.
And another ability that will cleanse existing crowd control effects.
With a 30-second cooldown.
That's a really short cooldown.
30 seconds is very long in PvP.
So a 30-second cooldown, with a cooldown that has 33% uptime, which allows you to flat out ignore everything that would be required to take you down.
First of all, let me clear up this misconception right now. Concentrate will not block all crowd control on you for 10 seconds. Concentrate will only cancel one condition you receive in the next 10 seconds. As soon as you take any form of crowd control in that 10 seconds you have concentrate up, concentrate will expire. Purify is a reactive ability. In other words, this will only benefit you if you are currently being crowd controlled. Generally as healer, this means you are in trouble. And in frontlines, the amount of damage you receive is typically of such magnitude that even if you have to be near godly speed to get a Purify off in time and still escape the amount of damage you're incoming. This is from personal experience. I have actually the first week in Feast played healer, and that's actually why I switched to Bard, because I just could not deal with the enormous workload that a healer has to do.
Yeah, but that's in Feast, and most people in Feast do Feast because they're competitive and they know what they're doing. In Shadow and Frontlines, it's, again, mostly people there for their rewards, their tombstones, and their
because the Feast is a 4-on-4 fight. The front lines, you could have 8, 10, 12 people more kicking the shit out of you. And I think that if you have the entire enemy team beating the crap out of you, that should kill you.
Unless you're very good, it will.
Not in my experience.
I think we should move on from. I think we should
absolutely.
move on topic because
that's a tangent.
We have dig a lot into that, and PvP in this game,
unfortunately, is niche.
It was never the main focus, and it never will be. And I hope they do something to make it more enjoyable for everyone in the end, because I enjoyed it more before. But do we have anything else to say about Stormblood? Like, what did they do good? What did they really fuck up?
In my opinion, the only thing that was really fucked up about Stormblood was the dual storylines.
This is probably the time where I launched my Yoshi P Tanaka fuckfest theory. So, Variel, you heard
everyone listening, feel free to go grab a drink. He'll be at this for a while.
No, I'll give you the short cliff notes. So, we all know Tanaka did 11 and then 1.0. And in 1.0, a lot of the story and foundation was already laid out for the first 2 expansions. Ishgard and Alamigo were things that were probably gonna happen at one point or another. After 1.0 failed and Yoshi P took it over, Square Enix sat down internally and made a nice little list of promises they had made to the community that they were gonna uphold. One of those was the PS3 release that never happened in 1.0. The other things was probably Alamigo and Ishgard. We got Ishgard in Heavensward, and everyone was super happy and excited, including the dev team, even though they took a 4-month break afterwards and gave us 3.1. Let's not go into that discussion, please. But after Heavensward, Yoshi P and the rest of the dev team are looking around saying like, yes, now we have to do Al Amigo too. But we don't really want to spend all that time and effort pulling an entire expansion on that, because they have already mapped out up until 6.0 what they wanted to do. So instead of giving us a proper Al Amigan expansion, they gave us half an expansion, focusing on the legacy, so to say, Tanaka's legacy, and then doing the Othard storyline, and it basically boiled down to I think no one was really happy. I was pissed as fuck seeing El Amigo reduced to a dungeon. This place that we have heard so much about, was talked about for years and built up. We can't even go inside and visit the city. We got Kugane instead. Weebtown, USA. So I think in the end, it was just legacy. They needed to do it, even though they didn't want to, and that's why this Stormblood expansion was so disjointed in places.
Yeah, that's actually a good word to put it in. I feel that by trying to tell two stories in the same space as they told the entire epic Heavensward story, just meant that both stories got told half, and we never got to the bottom of either.
No.
Well, we kind of did with the Othard storyline, but that came at the expense of completely ditching the Al Amigan one.
If I was gonna do this expansion the way they did it, I think I would just have halted the entire Al Amigo storyline when Xenos attacked Ralgos Reach, and just at that point said, we need to rebuild, we need to restructure, and we need to actually build up forces again, and we need new allies. Let's look at Offard and see if we can get the Domans in.
That is basically what they did do, though.
Yep.
Yeah, but we went back to Al Amigo. We should never have gone back to Al Amigo until Stormblood or Shadowbringers.
There's an issue with that, though. That is just simply that's not going to solve the problem. That's just kicking the can down the road. Because then they need to tell the Al Amigan storyline at the same time as the future storyline that they want to tell. And then you have the next expansion fucked up by that.
No, again, the next expansion would just have been Al Amigo, and then we would have gotten whatever we're gonna get in Shadowbringers in 6.0.
I don't think they could.
That would have. I
honestly don't think they could have stretched the entire Al Amigan storyline into a full expansion, personally, because, like, the reason why we got an Ishgard expansion was because there's just so much to work with there. We got the inner political turmoils of Ishgard. We got Ishgard's war with the dragons. We even got interesting side stories around other areas. For example, the Nath and their fights with the dragons and their fights with the Ishgardians, or the having to go to the Vanu Vanu to try and get the key to head into Azys La. Things like that. I do not see them ever stretching out an Al Amigan storyline, because the Al Amigan storyline is just the liberation of Al Amigo.
Yeah, which could have been a long, drawn-out conflict with a lot of interconnected things going on between, but they choose not to do that. And one thing more, Stormblood. A storm of blood. How many people actually died?
You mean,
like,
really?
We had 2 minor NPCs died, basically.
Yeah.
Was not much of a Stormblood, I would say. Not on, even in the Imperial side, not that many Imperials died. Like, sure, nameless NPCs.
Red shirts.
But who was that again?
Basically, all the red shirts died.
Yeah, okay, the other red shirts. Yeah, I heard Richard.
No,
like, who the fuck is
red
Richard?
shirts.
Yeah, red shirts. Yeah. No, like we have that dude, Conrad or whatever his name was,
yeah.
the resistance. Yeah, Conrad, the resistance leader or lieutenant or whatever he was. He died, and that's the only person I can remember.
I will say the best part about a character going away in Stormblood, though, no more Lys. Crab Rave, Lys is gone. I actually didn't mind Nita as a character at all, but I did not like Lys one bit.
I actually like Lys better, but Lys is a dumb character. Like, not like
she whines
dumb
too much.
As she's written. She's just naive and stupid.
I can't believe they took away my man Papalimo for this.
Yeah. They killed both Yida and Papalimo to give us Lys. Like, hello? Anyone? No. And one thing I think we need to touch upon is Eureka. Like,
Do we have to?
Ooh.
Interest-
In a
just-
nutshell, by the end, Eureka was fine, but its launch was
Mm.
disastrous, and the rushed launch led to Pagos being a miserable quagmire of time.
how many times did they nerf that zone?
I can
Not
think of
often enough.
5 or so.
Yeah, 5 or 6.
Although, to be honest,
like-
the main reason why they had to nerf it repeatedly is because they kept doing like, oh, we're gonna reduce costs by 5%. Oh, we're gonna increase rewards by 5%. Eventually, they just went, fuck it, double light gains. We're leaving now. We're done with this.
Yeah.
Stop.
You happy now? You
Yeah,
ungrateful
Yeah,
sons of
like
bitches?
people were complaining and complaining. Even I was like, Pagos was
That's because
literal
Pagos was
hell.
shit. See, I enjoyed Animos, I enjoyed Pyros, and I enjoyed Hydatos. I despised Pagos. It was awful. It was awful. Like, it was.
Pagos is literal
Pagos
hell. As soon as you get into Pyros, you're just like, thank fuck.
Do you know
I
what
don't
the
need to go
absolute
back in
worst
that
part
area.
of Pagos is? It's the map.
The level
No,
design?
it's the map, both visually. It is it's bright white everywhere. It hurts the eyes to look at for long periods, and you will be in there for long periods. But also, the map design is awful. It's actually hostile. Like, a great example of this is the leftmost cliff. There are 3 ledges you can drop onto. The leftmost ledge takes you to the Crystal Forge. The middle ledge takes you to Brothers and that area, which is also where one of the story beats is. The right ledge takes you nowhere.
Fuck
It's
all.
just there to trick.
It's a red
It's
herring.
just there to trick and frustrate brand new players.
And how a lot of people had issues like the first couple of days. How do we deal with this fucking dragon that is blocking the entire north section of the map?
Yeah. Who designed this map? Tanaka?
Probably. That was probably the last folder they found on his computer. Like, oh, what's this? Let's just fucking throw that in there because we're rushing this.
What's
anyway.
this? What's this folder titled I hate Final Fantasy 14?
To be honest, I thought Eureka overall was a great idea, all of it,
But
with
it was
a
purely
terrible implementation.
It was
Like, the
really poorly
implementation-
executed.
The implementation of Pyros and Hydatos wasn't that bad, but it got off to such a rocky start.
Yes.
Yes, it
Um,
really did. It really,
Eureka
really did.
has basically destroyed my faith in relics.
Like, I honestly suspect that we were supposed to get 6 areas, 1 for each element, but they had to cut 2 of them because they had to rush it because things just weren't working out. Like,
And
The
they
first
never
half-
forget, Animos released a patch late.
yes.
Yeah.
The first half of Pyros is ice. More fucking ice after Pagos. I wouldn't.
How many people got
Yeah,
triggered
I wouldn't
there?
have
Went
literally-
from Pagos into Pyros.
Literally, the moment I loaded in, I saw it, I was just like, ah, more ice.
And not only that, we got that little nice cutscene first. They showed the north part of the map, like fire and mountains and everything. I was like, oh, this is gonna be nice. And then you get and then cutscene over. You're back at base camp, snow.
Like, the way the ice half of Pyros looks should have been how they designed Pagos. Instead of just being a flat, featureless, miserable snowfield.
It's like Pyros's ice area is actually visually appealing to me.
It is.
Yeah.
It's a lot better designed. Like with those walkways and all the things that are moving around, it's a beautiful zone. One thing I wanted to say more about the entire relic system that they implemented in there. I think one thing they really fucked up with putting the relics in Eureka, contra to how they did it in Heavensward and 2.0, is that both 2.0 and Heavensward, it forced a lot of people into old content. They kept the roulettes alive.
Mm-hmm.
With Eureka, we got a deficit of that instead, and a lot of people have issues doing the content they wanted outside of Eureka. Especially after the server split here in EU, at least.
Yeah, because a lot of more people were doing Eureka than the actual roulettes, and we suffered greatly.
Especially
Why,
when Eureka...
why do expert roulette when you can go into Eureka,
Exactly.
do a couple of fates, get all the tomes, and maybe some rare minions or other shit out of the lockboxes? Like, there's more rewards in Eureka than doing the expert roulette, which some people, need to do to finish some kind of main story and other stuff.
And then like, oh, we're gonna continue it in Shadowbringers. So it's just like, please don't make the same mistakes, please.
Do you know what I actually think that also part
They
of the
have
issue
learned.
towards the tail end of Stormblood was just people getting bored with Stormblood.
Yeah, same.
For an expansion that was going to be innovative and where they promised to do a lot of new things, I haven't seen much of it. I've seen a
Yeah, same.
shit ton of quality of life improvements, like already stated. I've seen a shit ton of system improvements, and I won't even deny that. I've seen them try to revamp an old idea into a new idea. Let's not kid ourselves. Eureka is the next version of Diadem.
No, it's not! I will die on this hill. Saying that Eureka is Diadem 2.0.
3.0 technically.
3.0.
Okay, you know what I mean. Because it revolves around killing fates. Is like saying that Alexander is just a dungeon because it has trash mobs and a boss at the end of it.
Actually,
no,
technically,
because no dungeons
that actually made Alexander better than Omega.
Yes, but my point is, it's not fucking Diadem, and I will die on this hill.
I think the reason most people say it's Diadem 3.0 is because it's a resembling system.
It's a fake
and
instance
Diadem
zone
was
with too
much
many
of a
people.
failure, and they wanted to keep building on this open
Yes,
world.
like the big difference between Diadem and Eureka is that Diadem is literally just to do fates, nothing else. Eureka is much more detailed, much more complex. It has its own in-depth game systems. It has multiple maps, and they also introduced the Logos action system and the BA.
Yeah, well, most people think this comparison when Animals was released.
Yeah, it should have.
And Animals didn't have many of the
It
systems
should
you're
have
talking
died
about.
with
Like, there was no
Animals.
logos, there was no bunnies, and a lot of that stuff was not there.
To be honest, I've always found the weakest aspect of Eureka in its entirety. Because... wait, no, I need to start somewhere else. I can't recall the precise source of this, so please don't beat me over the head with it. But I recall reading somewhere that the reason FF14 is structured the way it is to give you dungeons to level in, so you won't have to endlessly kill mobs to get somewhere. And then we get Eureka, where the point is to endlessly kill mobs to get somewhere.
With regards to that, the dungeon, grinding dungeons to level up was actually completely unintentional. They wanted people to level up through just simply...
Leave quests?
No, side quests, actually. They wanted people to level up through side quests and progressing through the main story quest. The whole leveling up through running instanced content over and over was an absolute accident, and the guys in Square Enix decided to just roll with it. But as regards to Eureka just being killing endless mobs over and over, I'm not going to say that's wrong, but it's also not correct either, at least not in Pyros and Hydatos. My personal opinion as well is that it was supposed to release like Pyros, with bunnies and Logos actions and things like that, but they just simply had to release Animos as is because they were delayed. I don't even know why they were being delayed.
Balance problems.
I don't know either, but wasn't the rumor too that the first release of Animals was just going to be the first 10 levels? We got 20 at the start, and also we got a lot of relic armor right off the bat.
The reason
that didn't translate over later, which was weird.
The reason that they released so much stuff in Animals, if I recall correctly, is because they wanted to do it in 4.1 or 4.15. And they had quote-unquote balance problems. So they pushed it back, first to 4.2 and then to 4.25. And they said from the start that, okay, what you are getting is basically all of Animals. This is more than we originally intended to give you if we had released everything on time.
Yeah.
Maybe it was the 20 level span then that were kicking their ass balancing-wise, because...
personally,
it's not fun being sub 10 in that fucking.
Personally, what I reckon is that
The max level is level 60, and there are 6 elements in this game. So what I reckon we were supposed to get is 6 10-level areas, 1 for each element, but they rushed themselves. That's just my baseless theory, though.
Yeah, we will never really know what happened with Eureka. I think we can dig through interviews.
I'm willing to bet that
know.
if we do get a Eureka-esque thing in Shadowbringers, it's going to be infinitely less tedious and frustrating than what Eureka was.
Yeah, and I don't think the relic is gonna get bound to it, and I don't think if there is a new open world BA dungeon, it's not gonna be.
What they have mentioned. What they've said before is they've said that they want the next relic to be tied to specific content as opposed to forcing people to constantly rerun old content, because they've done 2 relics that require you to rerun old content, but only 1 relic that required them to do new content. And for all of its faults and problems, of which there are fucking legion, Eureka did introduce some really new and interesting concepts. For example, it introduced a threatening overworld area, which no other place in Final Fantasy XIV has had. It introduced the Logos action system, and it introduced a 56-man piece of content, which the devs have all said they're interested in making more of.
Well, if they want to make more of that, maybe they should consider raising the render limit of the game engine first.
Oh, please.
XD, yes, please. There is a lot of issues with BA.
BA was rushed.
Let's not even get started on the render limit when we are in a semi-instant zone with 140 other people, and you can't even see half the fucking mobs that get drawn into this fate area.
The issue for that isn't really even the render limit. It's the way that this game prioritizes rendering, because it prioritizes rendering. There are a handful of special mobs like hunts and fate bosses, which are prioritized over absolutely everything else. But other than that, this game largely prioritizes displaying players before anything else, which is what causes the rendering issues in Eureka.
And the fact it will render only 40 closest players, mobs, anything.
If they just simply changed the rendering priority so that your party is at the top, your party is at the top, then mobs and AoEs, then the other players, that would solve all of the rendering issues in all but the most intense parts of Eureka. You know, when you got 100 people all kicking the shit out of Ovni.
Correct me if I'm wrong, though. They did do something with.
They did.
Prioritizing that your party was supposed to be displayed above other players.
No. What they ended up prioritizing was they did this already back in Animals. They prioritized the fate bosses over everything.
That's the one. Not a bad change, though, because if you can't see the fate boss, what the fuck are you doing?
Which is probably also... It's probably also a good preemptive thing as well for Shadowbringers, because I'm not sure if you guys saw the discussion of it, but fates are going to be a lot more important in Shadowbringers than they are currently. For example, there's going to be a special fates-only currency that allows you to buy some unique stuff. I have no idea on the actual details, so I'm not going to bother discussing further. All I can say for certain is fates are going to be more of a thing.
Thank you, because the fates have been boring or something you just straight ignore in the overworld up until then. Now, up until Shadowbringer, Stormblood, when they actually added the XP bonus and the Forlong Maidens, I believe
they were called. Forlong Maidens.
Not only that,
that actually spiced it up a bit.
Not only that, they actually balanced the amount of experience you get from a fate much more better to your level. For a comparable Heavensward or ARR fate, the amount of experience you get for the work you put in is just laughable. In Stormblood, they put a lot more experience into the fates, probably at the expense of some zone side quests. I don't really care.
No, because you only do them once.
You only can do them
once. Who really cares?
And so, yes, fates are actually at the moment a viable way of leveling up.
That is actually
that's what they should be.
that's actually another thing that they're doing as well. For Shadowbringers, they're going to be making it so that the rewards from side quests, especially in terms of XP, are better, and apparently the rewards will also scale to your level when you do the side quests. So that's another nice touch. Both side quests and fates are going to be a lot better in Shadowbringers. Can we start wrapping this podcast up soon? Because Aisuru needs to leave soon, and I also desperately need something to eat.
Yeah, of course. We have already touched a bit on Shadowbringers, what we know. Any major wishes you guys have, that hasn't been announced yet? Something you really want them to implement or fix?
I know they're not gonna change this about Summoner, but having Summoner give a full party heal whilst they're summoning Phoenix is my personal pet peeve right now for Shadowbringers. Because Summoners, 1, can't heal, and 2, why are we getting Medica 2? Why?
I will say in regards to that, the Phoenix heal is extremely short range. It's like you basically need to be standing on top of the summoner.
Oh, good then.
Summoner gets a passive AoE heal around them while they have Phoenix up. The one thing that I really want to see, which I'm pretty sure would work fantastically in the Gold Saucer, is some kind of monster breeding and training side game. FF11 had one.
But we got Lords of Verminion, Variel.
You shut up! Quiet, you! Cease at once!
Fuck Lords of Verminion for the
I don't even mind Lords of Verminion, but Jesus, it's not great. Ugh.
It was nothing.
My
No one wanted that.
Lords of Verminion is fine as this little side activity that you don't really do very often.
My personal thing about the Lords of Vermilion is the fact that I'm angry about the fact that there's a minion actually locked behind it.
There's multiple minions locked behind it.
Yeah, there's the Wind Up Twintanio one, which I want, but you need to do 27 of the quests that are in Lord of Vermilion to actually unlock it. And I am not happy about it.
Oh, yeah.
And then there's the Penguin Prince you need to, win 4 tournaments or whatever to actually get.
Aisuru.
Mm-hmm.
Check it out.
Gev!
No, you earn it! Earn it like I did!
Gev!
Do you want to know the secret to getting it, though?
Yes.
The wind-up gentleman, the Hildebrand minion, is absolutely broken. I just spammed it over and over, and that was the only unit that I used for all of the trials, and that's all you need to use. It is busted in Lord of the Minions.
I think the only real wish I have for Shadowbringers is please, Screenish, don't fuck it up.
I don't think they will.
Same.
No, from what I've seen, it looks good. But it is Screenix we're talking about.
I would put most of Stormblood's problems down to the devs just not being passionate, because you could definitely tell with some things that they just didn't care. Like, for example, compare the Alamegan areas the Garabanian areas to the Othardian areas. The Othardian areas are so much more varied and interesting and complex and detailed. You could just tell that a lot of devs just they tried, obviously, clearly, but they just didn't care as much. But all of the devs, you can see passion for their work leaking out of their eyeballs.
That's what the dev did. They just took the towel and threw it away.
They're hyped. They're as excited as we are.
Yeah. You can tell the passion coming off Shadowbringers. And as you said, Alamigo offered. It wasn't the same thing.
Jesus. I've got to sign off soon because I'm actually starting to feel ill.
Right, okay, let's wrap it up then.
I actually have one wish for Shadowbringers.
Yeah, okay.
And that is, whatever next Eureka we're gonna get, please don't use Fates. Give us a daily side quest. Give us a weekly side quest. Give me a fucking hunt board that gives me a target. Yeah, the challenge log, for instance, was a great idea. Give me something like that. Please.
Do you know what would be really cool? you know how like S rank hunts can have some really weird and varied spawning requirements.
Yes.
Like, for example, there's an S rank hunt. The S rank hunt in the locks, Salt and Light, requires you to discard a bunch of items from your inventory. It would be really cool if they made it so you had to do stuff like that to get the notorious monsters to spawn.
Absolutely.
Like, the thing is, I do not mind using fates. It's the fact that it's fates and only fates. And the other problem as well is that there's absolutely no indication on whether you're spawning the notorious monster properly or not.
Or bring back the 11 pop items, like an item we earn and then we can pop.
Do you remember that in the original Diadem, if you were close to spawning a notorious monster, or rather the closer you got, the more messages popped up from the monster is really close. You're really almost on top of its lair. That is actually a really good system to motivate players. Hey, dude, just a little bit further.
Yeah, we're all pretty deep into the Eureka hole, so I think we're probably going to complain about this for another 2 hours. So let's just let's start plugging shit.
You want to start, Variel?
Yes, I have a Twitch account, TripleCastSleep, with an underscore separating the two words. I'm actually currently hosting Angel on it right now. I stream Prey. I stream Baldesian runs. I stream a couple of miscellaneous games. Please tag along. Watch my streams. They're not awful.
No, it's actually pretty funny.
Thank you.
Good. Miss Ryu, or you had something?
No, I'm done.
Okay, so Miss Ryu, what do you have to plug?
Just my Twitch, because even though I rarely stream on it, you've got to watch this cutest streamer ever, you know. And I am Aisuru Ryu with an underscore between the two things, on Twitch, and I do occasionally stream Well Destiny and Arsenal runs, but not anymore since I did my last run yesterday, and since I'm going to be away for a week, I'm not going to be streaming, but I was going to stream Final Fantasy like I usually do. And sometimes I will stream random games like Osu and Abzu and stuff like that. Yeah, so follow me, please. I need friends.
Actually, sorry, there is one thing that I did forget. I also have a YouTube channel, TripleCastSleep, where I host the VODs of some of my more linear things, like my Prey streams.
Nice. And Mr. Stormdancer, do you have anything you want to plug?
No, unfortunately not. I only rarely stream, and it's usually not that interesting, so I'm just gonna leave it at that.
Okay, if you say so. And I am Angel Lux, the complete fucking BA retard, or whatever you want to call it. And I host a couple of Discords. One community gaming Discord, one rating Discord, and one prog rating Discord, because I wanted to separate that, because people are complaining there's too much shut on my Discords. I also stream occasionally, rather every day, basically, BA runs and other miscellaneous games, Tarkov and other stuff. I have a YouTube channel which I upload stuff on, and check me out on Patreon and PayPal and all that stuff. All these links will be added to the description of the uploaded podcast on YouTube.
He's not a...
So don't worry if you can't...
He's not a retard. The accurate term is Arsenal Gremlin.
Arsenal Gremlin, yes!
I like that title. That's pretty cool.
Okay.
So yeah, that was episode 5 of ExCog Radio, everybody. Thank you so much for tuning in. I am Angel Lux, signing off. Goodbye.
Bye, everyone.
Variel.
Goodbye!
Goodbye, everyone. Have a good one, and we'll catch you next time on ExCog Radio, next Sunday or Saturday or whenever we feel like recording this.
Imagine thinking
okay,
we're
goodbye,
actually
everybody.
organized.
What's organized?
What's organization?
I try and get him to organize, and, well, Angel only gets 3 hours of sleep, so he's not very good at following plans.
I try.
Goodbye, everyone.
Goodbye. Have a good one.
Take care.
And we are off the air.
Yay.
Good show, everyone. Wow, that interview took a fuck ton of time to get through, though. I did not expect it to have that much information.
Yeah. We can stop the recording now, I assume?
Oh yeah, you can stop your Audacity recording. Just press